understanding that within your workforce right now, today, out there on the job, are subject matter experts. Every single one of them. Because if they weren't, you wouldn't be employing them. So respect them, show them that trust, and just those little things alone.
So, investigate, that's the deadly word, isn't it? Investigate. Sometimes we have to investigate because our regulators, our licensees, they tell us that that's what we must do, and that's the language that they use. So we're not afraid of that. This is our sort of learning maturity flow, if you like. Starting from the left, we've got some sort of traditional investigation process, system, template. What we're encouraging our clients to do as part of this mind the gaps, this is one element. This is quite a powerful one as well, because this is where you can get a lot of really good information. Move towards more of this learning, but you know, hazard warning triangle time. Don't replace traditional investigation straight away with learning teams, because it often doesn't work that well. Okay, so we're talking about a maturity here. Investigate hop-centric. So when you do investigations, we're trying to remove the blame and understand why it made sense for that person to do what they did at the time in that environment, and make it really context rich so we understand more. And then we move on to learning more about normal work and successful work through appreciative inquiry, good, better, best. You know, tell me how you do the great things that you do today and how I can help you make them even better. Great conversations, a nice trust builder in terms of, I feel okay talking about the things that I do well because I'm confident with that. Don't come in and say, what challenges are you facing? You know, how many rules do you follow? And then go on to learning teams. So let's really get in a room together and understand what we're doing and get the right people talking about it. So that's...
We looked at this thing about violations. Violations is such a horrible word, and certain words have real bad connotations to them, and nobody wants to be classed as a violator. Oh my God. So, you know, and when you class these things as violation, guess what? Nobody wants to talk about them because they feel like dirty little secrets. So what you want to do is try and soften the language so that people can talk about that. And then violation, which, believe me, when it happens, I mean, people say to me, well, you know, if we've got a no-blame culture and we start to investigate something, what happens when we find out that somebody screwed up? Well, if somebody screwed up to that point and it's a real violation in our language, guess what? Fire them. I'll come and fire them for you. It's pretty cut and dry. You don't need to get too far into your investigation to find out that somebody was violent, neglected a really great rule that nobody else would. In terms of, you know, Rob said about life-saving rules and things like that, and it's so important, and I agree, don't get rid of them, but change the context of them. This reckless stuff down at the bottom, if you want to understand what violation really looks like in your business, start to talk to your workers about taboos, okay? What are the taboos? If there were no rules in our organisation today, what are the things that you absolutely would not allow somebody to do? Not management, workers. What would you just automatically jump in there and stop your colleagues from doing? Because we don't do that around here. And when you get that information, guess what? When those things get broken, that's violating, because nobody else around here would do that. And everyone, you'll see the behaviour, everyone's going, geez, that guy did something really crazy. But there are indicators before that. Nobody wants to work with that guy. So you probably already know who's going to do these kind of things. And then finally on learning, we have a bit of a thing. We do this as a bit of a challenge, and it leads to that thing that I said about, oh yeah, we got about 5 or 6 learning points. We challenge our clients, and within each department, within our client organisations, come up with 100 sources of learning. And then start from there. Once you've come up with 100 sources of learning, and guess what? There are many more than 100. But if you can nail 100, then we can start to understand which ones are reactive, which ones are proactive. And now you start getting the behaviour you're looking for. Learning becomes deliberate. Because the majority of this stuff, we actually have to proactively go out there and grab. So that's the behaviour. Because now we've got to put processes in place for us to go and capture this learning and decide what we're going to do with it. So again, the slide will be available to you, but just go and run a competition in your business and say, first department to come up with 100 sources of learning gets a prize. Yeah? And then imagine putting, instead of, an accident board in the reception or on the gate that says, hey, it's been 23 days since our last incident, bollocks, sorry. Instead of having that kind of board, what you might have up there is, guess what, the last learning event that the turbine team had was 23 days ago. The last learning event that the design team had was 20 days ago. The last learning event that supply chain had was 6 days ago. Now, if you were a leader walking into an organisation that had a board like that in the reception, you'd have some questions to ask, wouldn't you? Because you'd be like, why has our design team not learned anything in 20 days? Holy crap, that's really worrying. Why has our turbine team not learned anything in 26 days? What's going on there? So these are good sources of learning, and that's a really good way to start to demonstrate and embed those behaviours in your organisation. Imagine an organisation where it was not only safe to speak up and raise concerns, it was an explicit, well-communicated expectation. And now just let's take that to the next level and say, what about if every time an incident happened in your business, you know, all those conversations, all those little rumbling conversations that go on around, hey, I knew that was going to happen. Oh, geez, that nearly happened to me. Oh, my God, I know who that was. What if those conversations were such a taboo that that was the reason that people got fired? Instead of, he screwed up, let's fire him, the person who says, oh, yeah, geez, that nearly happened to me, what if that was the person that got fired? I'm not suggesting that you do that. But wouldn't that be turning psychological safety really on its head? Where absolutely those conversations are not appropriate and not tolerable in our organisation. You don't look up and say, yeah, I thought that might happen, because that would just be a taboo. So what we think about psychological safety is we want to get our organisations to, it would be absolutely unthinkable not to raise a concern, not to speak up, and not to talk about the things that are concerning us at every level of the organisation. One point that is really worth remembering is that psychological safety is, as well as it being something that we have to believe as a group, is very personal. So every single one of us in our organisation has to say, I will not suffer any negative consequence. And I believe that, yeah? Psychological safety is personal to me. So just because my 9 mates in my team feel safe, I still don't. And my issue with psychological safety may not be with leadership. In fact, it very rarely is, to be honest. It might be that these 9 guys that I work with, I just look up to them and I don't want to challenge anything that they say. So those 9 feel safe, I don't. Until everyone in your organisation can say, I believe, you don't have psychological safety, and you've got to do some work.